Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of his ship and looked out at the massive space station ahead. Nexus Prime was the biggest thing he had ever seen. It was 10 times larger than Earth's moon and covered in lights that sparkled like diamonds. This was the home of the Galactic Council, the group that ruled over 12 different alien races across the galaxy. Jake felt nervous but excited. He was 45 years old and had spent most of his life in the military. He had fought in wars and survived dangerous missions, but this was different. This was humanity's first chance to join the galactic community. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 years ago, and now they were meeting the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Campbell walked up beside him. She was a scientist who studied alien life, and she knew more about the council races than anyone else on Earth. Her hands were shaking slightly as she held her datapad. "Are you ready for this?" she asked Jake. "As ready as I can be," Jake replied. "We've practiced this meeting 100 times. We know what to say." Behind them, Ambassador Kevin Brooks was checking their gifts one more time. They had brought the best of human culture with them. There were paintings by famous artists, recordings of beautiful music, and detailed reports about human science and medicine. They wanted to show the council that humans were intelligent and peaceful. Their ship docked with the station, and Jake felt the familiar bump as the airlock connected. This was it. The moment that would decide humanity's future. The airlock opened, and they stepped into a corridor that was clearly not built for humans. The ceiling was very high, and everything was made from materials that glowed with soft light. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. A tall, thin alien greeted them. It had blue skin and 4 arms, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. I am Guide Vextar. Please follow me to the council chamber." As they walked through the station, Jake saw other aliens for the first time. Some looked like giant insects with shiny shells. Others were covered in fur and walked on 6 legs. There were creatures that floated in the air without wings and beings that looked like living rocks. All of them stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. "They seem curious about us," Lisa whispered. "Let's hope that's a good thing," Jake whispered back. The council chamber was enormous. In the center was a circular platform where the humans would stand. Around them, raised high above, were 12 thrones where the council members sat. Each throne was designed for a different type of alien, and the beings sitting in them were the most powerful creatures in the galaxy. Council Speaker Zixthala sat on the highest throne. He was a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to look right through Jake. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "So these are the humans," Zixthala said. "The new species that thinks it belongs among the stars." Jake stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Honored council members, I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing all of humanity. We come in peace, hoping to learn from your wisdom and contribute to galactic civilization." Several of the council members made sounds that might have been laughter, but not the friendly kind. One of them, a creature that looked like a giant spider, clicked its mandibles together rapidly. "Contribute?" the spider-like being said. "What could a species that only learned to travel between stars 3 years ago possibly contribute to civilizations that have existed for millions of years?" Ambassador Brooks stepped forward with their gifts. "We bring examples of our art, our music, and our scientific discoveries. Perhaps you will find them interesting." A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish made a sound like wind chimes. "Art from primitives. How amusing." Jake felt anger building inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. "We may be young, compared to your species, but we have learned much in our short time. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We have turned a dangerous world into a peaceful one. We believe that experience has value." "Survived?" Zixthala leaned forward, on his throne. "You mean you have spent your entire existence fighting and killing each other? This is exactly why young species cannot be trusted in galactic civilization." "Every species faces challenges," Jake replied. "What matters is how we learn from them. Humans have made mistakes, but we have also learned to work together. We have learned to help each other." "Lies," said another council member, this one covered in thick fur with tiny black eyes. "We have observed your species. You still wage wars. You still destroy your own planet. You are genetic accidents, nothing more." Lisa stepped forward, her scientific training overcoming her fear. "If you have observed us, then you know we have. Also cured diseases, explored space, and created beautiful things. Yes, we have flaws, but we are growing. We are learning." "Learning?" Zixthala stood up from his throne. "You are chaos given form. You multiply too quickly. You consume resources, without thought. You fight wars over ideas and invisible lines on maps. The galaxy has no place for such destructive creatures." Jake felt his heart pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. Give us time to show that we can be good neighbors. We want to contribute to peace, not take from it." "Time?" Zixthala's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Time is what the galaxy has had plenty of while your species learned to walk upright. Time is what we have wasted listening to your pathetic pleas." The council speaker stepped down from his throne and walked across the platform toward Jake. He was much taller than any human, and his claws clicked on the metal floor. "You speak of survival, human. You speak of learning from challenges. Let me give you one final lesson." Before Jake could react, Zixthala raised a device that had been hidden in his robes. Energy crackled around it, and Jake realized what was about to happen. "Jake!" Lisa screamed. The energy beam hit Jake in the chest, and he fell to the ground. Lisa and Kevin rushed to his side, but it was too late. Jake Morrison, humanity's first envoy to the stars, was dead. Zixthala looked down at Jake's body without emotion. "Take this message back to your kind," he said to Lisa and Kevin. "You have 30 standard days to evacuate 12 of your frontier colonies. If you refuse, we will remove all humans from the galaxy permanently. Perhaps this will teach your species about the consequences of reaching beyond your grasp." Lisa knelt beside Jake's body, tears streaming down her face. Kevin stood frozen, unable to believe what had just happened. "Go," Zixthala commanded. "Return to your primitive world and deliver our message. The council has spoken." As guards escorted them away, Lisa looked back at the council members. They were already talking among themselves as if nothing important had happened. To them, killing Jake had been as simple as swatting an insect. But as they carried Jake's body back to their ship, Lisa felt something she had never experienced before. It was not just grief or anger, it was something cold and determined. The council had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were dealing with primitives who would run away in fear. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Lisa Campbell sat in the command chair of their ship as Earth grew larger in the window. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands were steady on the controls. Behind her, Jake Morrison's body lay in a sealed container. She had promised herself she would bring him home. Ambassador Kevin Brooks stood beside her, his face pale and drawn. Neither of them had slept during the 3-day journey back to Earth. They kept replaying the scene in their minds, seeing Jake fall again and again. "Lisa," Kevin said quietly, "what are we going to tell them?" "The truth," Lisa replied. "All of it." Their ship landed at the capital spaceport in New Geneva. Within an hour, they were standing in the emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation and colony. President Rachel Stone sat at the center table, her gray hair tied back and her blue eyes focused and alert. President Stone had been a military strategist before becoming a politician. She understood war better than most people understood peace. When Lisa finished telling the story of Jake's murder, the hall was completely silent. "They gave us 30 days?" President Stone asked. "Yes, ma'am," Kevin replied. 30 days to evacuate 12 frontier colonies, or they will destroy all human settlements in space. General Alex Carter, the head of Earth's military forces, stood up. He was a big man with scars on his hands from his younger days as a combat soldier. "How many ships do they have?" Lisa checked her notes. "Our intelligence suggests around 50,000 warships, maybe more. And we have 847, General Carter said grimly. "Not good odds." A murmur went through the assembly. Some representatives looked scared, others looked angry, but President Stone just nodded slowly. "Dr. Campbell," she said, "you spent more time with them than anyone. What did you learn?" Lisa stood up straighter. "They think we are weak because we are young. They think we will run away like scared children. They believe their technology is so much better than ours that we cannot possibly fight them." "Are they right?" President Stone asked. "About their technology being better?" "Yes, in most ways. But they made one big mistake." "What mistake?" "They think like prey animals," Lisa said. "Most of their species evolved on worlds where they had to hide from predators or work together to survive. They think in terms of defense and cooperation. But humans evolved as hunters. We think like predators." President Stone smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Go on." "They showed me their history during the meeting. They have had peace for thousands of years because they all think the same way. They make rules and everyone follows them. They have never faced an enemy that thinks differently." General Carter leaned forward. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I am saying they have no idea what humans do when someone hurts us." President Stone stood up and walked to the center of the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of humanity, the Galactic Council has made a declaration of war against our species. They murdered our envoy in cold blood and threatened to destroy our colonies." She paused and looked around the room. "I want to be very clear about something. We are not going to evacuate our colonies. We are not going to run away. We are not going to beg for mercy." The hall erupted in voices, but President Stone raised her hand for silence. "Instead, we are going to show them what happens when someone kills a human." Dr. Marcus Webb entered the hall through a side door. He was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Research Division, and he looked like he had not slept in weeks. His hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "Dr. Webb," President Stone said, "please, tell the assembly about your projects." Dr. Webb walked to the front of the room and activated a holographic display. "For the past 5 years, we have been developing weapons based on theoretical physics. We did not build them because we never thought we would need them. That has changed." The display showed 3 different designs. First, quantum disruptors. These devices can cause any technology that uses quantum entanglement to malfunction. According to Dr. Campbell's intelligence, most council technology depends on quantum networks. Lisa nodded. "Everything they use is connected through quantum links. Their computers, their ships, their communications, everything." Second, Dr. Webb continued, stellar manipulation devices. We can alter the output of stars, causing radiation storms that will make planets uninhabitable without actually destroying them. Several representatives gasped. One of them stood up. "Are we talking about using stars as weapons?" "Yes," Dr. Webb said simply. "And third, the Darwin Protocol." "What is that?" General Carter asked. Dr. Webb smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Biological warfare, but not the kind that kills quickly. We release specially designed organisms that adapt faster than native species. Within months, entire ecosystems collapse as our organisms outcompete everything else." The hall was quiet again. President Stone walked back to her seat. "The Council thinks we are primitive because we fight wars," she said. "They are about to learn that there is a difference between fighting wars and winning them." Commander Nina Lewis entered from another door. She was the head of Special Operations, a small woman with quick eyes and scars on her arms. "Madam President, my teams are ready." "Ready for what?" Kevin asked. "Infiltration," Commander Lewis replied. "We have been studying Council technology for 3 years. We know how to get onto their worlds without being detected. We know how to move through their cities. We know how to plant devices exactly where they will do the most damage." General Carter activated another display. This one showed the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. "Our fleets are already moving into position around key Council worlds, not to attack, but to observe and prepare." President Stone looked at Lisa. "Doctor, you know these aliens better than anyone. If we do this, if we show them what human war really looks like, will they surrender?" Lisa thought about Jake lying on the cold floor of the council chamber. She thought about Zixthala standing over his body without any emotion. She thought about the way the other council members had laughed at human achievements. "No," she said. "They will not surrender until they have no choice. They think they are too important to lose." "Then we will give them no choice," President Stone said. She stood up and addressed the assembly one final time. "Representatives of humanity, we are about to begin the most important war in human history, not for territory or resources, but for the right to exist. The Council believes they can destroy us because they have bigger ships and older technology." She paused and looked around the room. They are about to learn that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not the biggest predator. It is the smallest predator that refuses to give up. General Carter stood up. "All fleet commanders have their orders. Special operations teams deploy in 12 hours. Dr. Webb, I need your weapons ready in 72 hours. "They will be ready," Dr. Webb replied. As the assembly broke up, Lisa remained in her seat. President Stone sat down beside her. "Are you all right, Doctor?" Lisa looked at the container holding Jake's body. He believed we could join their civilization peacefully. He died trying to build bridges. And now we will build something else. President Stone said quietly. "What?" President Stone's eyes were cold and determined. "A graveyard for anyone who thinks humans are easy prey." Outside the assembly hall, human ships were already moving through space toward their targets. The Council had 30 days to destroy humanity's colonies. Humanity had given itself 72 hours to destroy the Council's ability to fight back. The countdown had begun. 15 days had passed since Jake Morrison's murder. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Zixthala sat in his private chamber, reading reports from across the galaxy. Everything seemed normal. The human colonies were still there, showing no signs of evacuation. He was not surprised. Young species always needed to learn lessons the hard way. A communication device chimed softly. Zixthala activated it, expecting another routine report. Instead, he saw the face of a human woman on the screen. It was President Rachel Stone speaking from Earth. "Council Speaker Zixthala," she said in a calm voice. "I have a message for you and your council." Zixthala's yellow eyes narrowed. How had these primitives gotten access to council communication networks? "You are supposed to be evacuating your colonies, human. Instead, you waste time with pointless messages." President Stone smiled, but her eyes were cold. "We have considered your generous offer to abandon our homes. We decline. Instead, we have a counter-proposal for you." "You are in no position to make proposals," Zixthala replied. "You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally to humanity. After that time, we will begin removing your ability to threaten anyone ever again." Zixthala made a sound that was part laugh and part growl. "Surrender? To you? You have less than 1,000 ships. We have 50,000. Your species has existed for barely a moment. We have ruled the galaxy for millions of years." "You killed our envoy," President Stone said simply. "Now you will learn what that means." The communication ended. Zixthala stared at the blank screen for a moment, then made another sound that might have been laughter. Humans and their pathetic threats. He would teach them proper respect soon enough. That was 15 minutes ago. Now, alarms were ringing. Throughout Nexus Prime, Captain Roy Mitchell crouched in a maintenance tunnel deep inside the massive station. Behind him, Lieutenant Amy Foster was placing the last quantum disruptor in a junction box that connected to the station's main power grid. Chief Engineer Paul Jackson monitored his scanner, watching for security patrols. "How much longer?" Roy whispered. 30 seconds, Amy replied. Her hands were steady as she connected the final wires. The device was no bigger than a human fist, but it would cause chaos throughout the station. "Done," she said. They had been on Nexus Prime for 3 days, moving through service tunnels and maintenance areas that the Council had never bothered to secure. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they had never considered the possibility of infiltration. Roy activated his communicator. All teams, this is Raven Leader. Begin Phase 1. Across Nexus Prime, 12 other human teams activated their quantum disruptors simultaneously. The devices did not explode or make noise. Instead, they sent out waves of interference that disrupted quantum entanglement on a massive scale. Within seconds, every piece of technology on the station began to malfunction. Lights flickered and went out. Gravity generators failed in some sections while overloading in others. Communication systems produced nothing but static. Transportation tubes stopped working, trapping aliens between floors. In his chamber, Zixthala tried to contact his security forces, but his communication device was dead. He tried to activate the emergency systems, but nothing responded. The most advanced space station in the galaxy had been reduced to a powerless shell in less than a minute, but the quantum disruptors were only the beginning. 3 light-years away, Dr. Helen Price stood on the bridge of the human science vessel Galileo. In front of her, displayed on the main screen, was a yellow star very much like Earth's sun. This star provided light and heat to Kethmora, one of the most important council worlds. "Are you ready, Doctor?" asked the ship's captain. Helen nodded. She had spent her entire career studying stars, learning how they worked and how they could be controlled. Today she would use that knowledge as a weapon. "Deploy the stellar manipulation array," she ordered. The Galileo extended a series of devices that looked like metal flowers. These devices could alter the magnetic field of a star, changing how it produced energy. Helen had calculated exactly what would happen when she activated them. "Initiating stellar modification," she announced. The devices fired focused beams of energy at the star. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the star's output began to change. Instead of the steady yellow light that had warmed Kethmora for millions of years, the star began producing intense radiation. On the planet's surface, the sky turned a sickly green color. Plants began to wither within hours. The radiation was not strong enough to kill immediately, but it would make the planet uninhabitable within weeks. Similar operations were taking place around 4 other council worlds. Humanity had turned the very stars against their enemies. The 3rd phase of the human attack was the most disturbing of all. On the council world of Vextar Prime, the first signs of the Darwin Protocol became visible within hours of the human ship's arrival. Strange new plants began growing in the cities. They looked similar to native species, but they grew much faster and adapted to their environment with frightening speed. The new organisms did not kill the native life directly. Instead, they outcompeted everything else. They absorbed nutrients more efficiently, reproduced faster, and adapted to changes that would kill normal plants. Within days, entire forests of native trees were dying as the human-designed organisms took over their territory. The council species living on these worlds had never faced biological warfare before. They had no defenses against organisms specifically designed to destroy their ecosystems, but the most devastating attack was yet to come. Throughout the galaxy, the Council's ancient communication network began to fail. This network used quantum entanglement to allow instant communication across vast distances. It was the foundation of Council civilization, connecting thousands of worlds and allowing them to coordinate their government and military. Lieutenant Amy Foster had designed a quantum virus that spread through entangled systems like a disease. Once it infected one part of the network, it automatically spread to connected systems. Within 6 hours, the Council had lost communication with over half of their territory. On Nexus Prime, Zixthala finally managed to reach an emergency communication station. He tried to contact the Council fleet but received only static. He tried to reach other Council worlds, but the connections were dead. For the first time in his long life, Zixthala felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. A new message appeared on his emergency screen. It was Admiral Sam Turner, the commander of Earth's military forces. Council Speaker Zixthala, Admiral Turner said, "You are probably wondering what is happening to your perfect civilization." Zixthala said nothing, but his claws dug into the metal surface of his desk. "You killed one human," Admiral Turner continued. "One man who came to you in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. In response, "We have killed your civilization's ability to function." The Admiral paused, then leaned forward toward the camera. "This is just the beginning. You have seen what we can do to your technology, your worlds, and your communications, but you have not yet seen what we can do to your fleets." The message ended, leaving Zixthala alone in his darkened chamber. Outside, he could hear the sounds of panic as council members tried to understand what had happened to their perfect order. The humans had been right about one thing. The council had never faced an enemy that thought like a predator. They had spent millions of years as the dominant power in the galaxy, never imagining that someone might challenge them. Now they were learning that there was a difference between being powerful and being unstoppable, and the humans were just getting started. The Council's war fleet was the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. 30,000 vessels from 12 different species, all heading toward one target: Earth. Council Speaker Zixthala stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive battleship called the Eternal Dominion. His yellow eyes were filled with rage. "How long until we reach the human homeworld?" he asked his fleet commander. 6 hours, Speaker," replied Admiral Kethavar, a spider-like being with 8 mechanical arms. "Our scouts report no human ships defending Earth. The planet appears to be unprotected." Zixthala smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Good. When we destroy their homeworld, the remaining human colonies will surrender. We will end this insult to council authority once and for all." Behind him, other council leaders from the surviving world stood watching the tactical display. They had all suffered from the human attacks. Their worlds were dying. Their technology was failing, and their ancient communication network was in ruins. But they still had their fleets, and that would be enough. "Speaker," said Councillor Vextai, a floating jellyfish-like creature, "are you certain we should destroy the entire planet? Perhaps we should capture some humans for study." "No," Zixthala replied coldly. "They have shown what happens when we show mercy to primitives. We will make Earth a dead rock floating in space. Let it be a warning to any other young species that might challenge us." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Ahead of them, the small blue planet hung in space like a jewel. It looked peaceful and defenseless. "Begin the attack," Zixthala commanded. The fleet moved forward, weapons charging. But as they approached Earth's location, something seemed wrong. The planet was there, but it was not where it should be. The gravitational readings were all incorrect. "Admiral," called the sensor operator, "I am detecting massive gravitational anomalies around the planet." Before Admiral Kethavar could respond, Earth simply disappeared. Where the planet had been moments before, there was now empty space. In its place, thousands of automated defense platforms suddenly became visible, their stealth systems deactivating, all at once. "It's a trap," Admiral Kethavar shouted. The defense platforms opened fire immediately. Each one was small compared to a council battleship, but there were so many of them that space itself seemed to be burning. Energy beams and missiles filled the area around the council fleet. Then the human ships appeared. They came from every direction, decloaking simultaneously. The human fleet was much smaller than the council force, but their ships moved like nothing the council had ever seen. They were fast and agile, darting between the massive council vessels like small fish around sleeping whales. Commander Tony Harris stood on the bridge of the human flagship Victory. He was watching dozens of tactical displays at once, coordinating the movement of every human ship in real time through quantum-encrypted communications that the Council could not intercept. "Phase 1 complete," he announced. "The Council fleet is trapped in the defense grid. Begin Phase 2. The human ships attacked in coordinated groups, using tactics that seemed impossible to the Council forces. They would appear behind a Council ship, fire precisely at weak points, then disappear before the enemy could respond. When Council ships tried to chase them, they found themselves flying into carefully prepared ambushes." On the Eternal Dominion, Zixthala watched his fleet being systematically destroyed. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their ships are smaller than ours. Their weapons should be weaker." Admiral Kethavar was studying the tactical readings with growing horror. "Speaker," They are not trying to destroy our ships. They are disabling them. Every shot is precisely targeted at our engines or weapon systems. Why would they disable us instead of destroying us? Before Kethvar could answer, a new voice filled the bridge. It was Admiral Sam Turner, broadcasting from the human flagship. Council forces, this is Admiral Turner of the Human Defense Fleet. You are completely surrounded and outmatched. Surrender immediately, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. Zixthala activated his own communication system. Never. We are the Council. We have ruled this galaxy for millions of years. We will not surrender to primitives. Then you will be destroyed, Admiral Turner replied calmly. The human attack intensified. Council ships that tried to fight back found their weapons useless against human shields that seemed to adapt to every type of energy. Ships that tried to escape discovered that the humans had somehow surrounded the entire battle area with a gravitational field that prevented faster-than-light travel. Within 2 hours, most of the Council fleet was floating helplessly in space, their engines dead and their weapons offline. The few ships that were still fighting were being picked off one by precise human strikes. Zixthala stood in his command center, watching the destruction of everything he had believed in. The Council was supposed to be invincible. They were supposed to be the masters of the galaxy. How had these young mammals made them look like helpless children? Speaker, Admiral Kethvar said quietly, we must surrender. We have lost. No, Zixthala growled. I will not surrender to creatures that barely know how to walk upright. Then you will watch your entire fleet die, said a new voice. Zixthala turned to see a human woman materializing on his bridge. She was wearing some kind of advanced armor that had made her invisible until now. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard as stone. I am Commander Nina Lewis of Human Special Operations, she said. You are under arrest for the murder of Captain Jake Morrison and for crimes against galactic peace. How did you get on my ship? Zixthala demanded. The same way we got onto Nexus Prime, Nina replied. You never bothered to secure areas you thought were unimportant. Your maintenance tunnels, your service corridors, your cargo bays. We have been moving through your ships for hours, placing charges and disabling systems from the inside. Zixthala reached for his weapon, but Nina was faster. A small device in her hand sent out an energy pulse that paralyzed him instantly. The battle is over, she announced into her communicator. The Council leadership is in custody. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out on other Council ships. Human Special Forces teams had infiltrated dozens of vessels during the fighting, capturing commanders and securing important prisoners. On the Victory, Admiral Turner received reports from all human ships. The casualties were remarkably light. Only 3 human vessels had been seriously damaged, and fewer than 100 crew members had been injured. The Council, meanwhile, had lost over half their fleet, and thousands of crew members were now prisoners. Admiral called his communications officer. We are receiving a transmission from an unknown ship. Put it through, Turner replied. The image that appeared on screen was of an alien Turner had never seen before. It was tall and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, its voice was musical and sad. Human Fleet, I am Ambassador Susan Clark of the Altarian Republic. I speak for 17 Council member species who wish to negotiate an immediate end to this conflict. Turner studied the alien's face. Go ahead, Ambassador. The actions of Council Speaker Zixthala do not represent all Council species. Many of us oppose the murder of your envoy, but we were overruled by the dominant faction. We ask for the opportunity to negotiate a peaceful resolution. Turner looked at the tactical display showing the destroyed Council fleet. Ambassador, the time for negotiation was before you killed our diplomat. That deadline has passed. Please, Ambassador Clark continued. Many worlds are dying because of the weapons you have used. Billions of innocent beings will perish if this continues. Turner was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward toward the camera. Ambassador, we will consider negotiations, but understand this clearly. You will not negotiate as equals. You will negotiate as defeated enemies asking for mercy. The Council's authority over this galaxy is finished. The transmission ended. Turner looked out at the wreckage of the once mighty Council fleet floating in space around Earth's hidden location. Jake Morrison had come to the Council in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. They had murdered him and threatened to destroy humanity. Now humanity had proven that there were consequences for such actions. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council no longer existed as a governing body. In its place, humanity had built something new, the Galactic Defense Alliance. Representatives from dozens of species now worked together in the great assembly hall that had once belonged to the Council. Judge William Grant sat at the center of the War Crimes Tribunal. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair and serious eyes. In front of him stood Zix Athala, the former Council speaker, wearing restraints that prevented him from moving. The reptilian alien looked much smaller now than he had when he murdered Jake Morrison. Zix Thala of the Kethmore species, Judge Grant said in a clear voice. You are charged with the murder of Captain Jake Morrison, the attempted genocide of the human species, and crimes against 17 other species over the past 1,000 years. The courtroom was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Many were species that had suffered under Council rule for centuries. Today, they would finally see justice. How do you answer these charges? Judge Grant asked. Zix Thala raised his head, his yellow eyes still showing defiance. I am a member of the Galactic Council. You have no authority to judge me. The Galactic Council no longer exists, Judge Grant replied. It died when you chose to murder an envoy who came in peace. You will answer the charges, or the court will enter a plea of guilty on all counts. Zix Thala said nothing, his claws clicking against the metal restraints. Dr. Lisa Campbell sat in the witness section watching the proceedings. She had testified earlier about what she saw in the Council chamber that day. Now she watched as evidence was presented about the Council's long history of destroying younger species before they could develop space travel. The evidence was overwhelming. Records showed that the Council had eliminated 43 different species over the past millennium, always claiming they were too dangerous or primitive to join galactic civilization. Humanity had simply been the first species strong enough to fight back. The court finds the defendant guilty on all charges, Judge Grant announced. Zix Thala, you are sentenced to life imprisonment on a penal colony where you will work to repair the damage you have caused to other worlds. Similar trials were taking place across the galaxy. Council leaders who had participated in the oppression of other species were being held accountable for their actions. The trials were broadcast to every world, showing that the age of Council supremacy was truly over, but the trials were only part of humanity's new order. Dr. Emma Rodriguez stood on the surface of Kethmora, one of the worlds that had been damaged by humanity's stellar weapons. Around her, teams of humans and aliens worked together to restore the planet's ecosystem. The work was slow and difficult, but it was succeeding. How long until the atmosphere is back to normal? Asked her assistant, a young Altarian named Veltar. Another 6 months, Emma replied, checking her readings. The radiation levels are dropping faster than we expected. The planet will be fully habitable within a year. What surprised many species was that humanity had designed their biological weapons to be reversible. The organisms from the Darwin protocol could be controlled and eliminated once their purpose was served. The stellar manipulation could be undone, returning stars to their normal output. Even the quantum disruption could be repaired with the right technology. Humanity had not wanted to destroy the galaxy. They had wanted to prove a point. Fleet Admiral Chris Morgan stood on the bridge of the defense station that now orbited where Nexus Prime used to be. The old Council station had been too damaged to repair, so humans had built something new in its place. This station was called Liberty Station, and it served as the headquarters for the Galactic Defense Alliance. Admiral called his communications officer. We are receiving a distress signal from the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking a merchant convoy. Chris nodded. Dispatch the Third Fleet. Rules of engagement? Disable if possible, destroy if necessary, the officer replied. This was how the galaxy worked now. Instead of the Council's rule through fear and superiority, humanity had established protection through strength. Any species that threatened others would face the same response that the Council had received. But unlike the Council, humanity did not rule over other species. Each world governed itself as it chose. The Defense Alliance only intervened when someone threatened the peace or tried to destroy other civilizations. Many species had volunteered to join the Alliance military. They had seen what humanity could do, but they had also seen that humans fought to protect, rather than to conquer. For the first time in galactic history, young species could develop without fear of being destroyed by their elders. In the memorial section of Liberty Station, Dr. Lisa Campbell stood before a statue of Captain Jake Morrison. The statue showed him as he had been during the diplomatic mission, holding out his hand in friendship. Around the base were inscribed the names of all the species that the Council had destroyed over the centuries. "You would be proud of what we built, Jake," Lisa said quietly. "It is not the galaxy you dreamed of when you went to meet the Council, but it is better than what was there before." A small alien child ran up to the statue. She belonged to one of the species that had been freed from Council oppression. Her people had been slaves for 300 years until humanity broke the Council's power. "Who is this human?" the child asked her mother in broken galactic standard. "His name was Jake Morrison," the mother replied. "He died so that we could be free." The child looked up at the statue with wide eyes. "He was very brave." "Yes," Lisa said, kneeling down beside the child. "He was very brave, but he was also kind. He believed that different species could work together as friends." Lisa stood up and looked around Liberty Station. In the corridors, humans worked alongside, beings that looked like insects, rocks, plants, and creatures that had no earthly comparison. Children from dozens of different species played together in the station's parks. Scientists from various worlds shared knowledge freely. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts and disagreements. Some species struggled to adapt to the new order. Others tested the Alliance's resolve by threatening their neighbors. But it was better, much better. President Rachel Stone's voice came over the station's communication system. She was addressing the Alliance Assembly from Earth. "Representatives of the Free Galaxy," she said. "Today marks 6 months since the end of the Council War. In that time, we have seen what happens when species work together, instead of one ruling over all others." Lisa listened as the president listed the achievements of the new alliance. 15 new species had achieved spaceflight with help from older civilizations. 3 worlds had been restored from Council damage. Trade between systems had increased by 300%. "But we must remember why we built this alliance," President Stone continued. "We did not fight the Council to become the new rulers of the galaxy. We fought them because they forgot that every intelligent species has the right to exist and grow." The president paused, and Lisa knew she was thinking about Jake Morrison. Captain Morrison came to the Council offering friendship. They responded with murder. But his death was not meaningless. It showed us that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be strong enough to defend it. Lisa walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the trade routes, keeping them safe. Human scientists worked with alien researchers to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. Human teachers helped young civilizations learn about the galaxy without fear. The Council had been wrong about humanity. They thought humans were too violent and chaotic for galactic civilization. They did not understand that human violence was not random destruction. It was the willingness to fight for what was right. They had killed one human envoy, expecting the rest of humanity to crawl away in fear. Instead, they had awakened something they never expected, a species that would not only fight for its own survival, but for the survival of anyone who could not defend themselves. The heavens had indeed turned dark when they killed Jake Morrison. But from that darkness, a new light had emerged, a light that would shine across the galaxy, ensuring that no species would ever again have to choose between submission and extinction. Captain Jake Morrison's dream of different species working together had come true. It had just taken a war to make it happen. As Lisa watched, a human patrol ship passed by the station heading out to the frontier. On its hull were painted the words that had become the motto of the Galactic Defense Alliance, "Never again." The galaxy was finally free.